In these words, we're looking at the EI for the long I sound and the E making the previous I make its long I sound. So we've got heist, height, either, neither, feisty, seismograph, and then we've got divide, provide, crocodile, exercise. So we've got some other things in these words as well. So don't forget that GH in there, we can't make that sound, so we tend to leave it out when we say the word, but when you spell the word you must write those letters in. Either, you've got the th and the on the end there. Remember, it's an ER commonly used on the end of a word, such as in either and neither. Feisty, we've got that E sounding with just the Y on the end. Seismograph, you've got the PH here making that F sound. Divide, provide, pretty easy. Crocodile, now you've got the C before an R, which is commonly used, and before an O for the k sound. Now here, when you have CR, remember it's going to make a sound, and then they've used the SE to make the Z sound on the end of exercise, and you've got the R-controlled ER phonogram in there as well. So there's not a lot of words with ER in the middle of it, so just be careful that you remember that that is ER there. Okay, what do these words mean? Well, heist means a robbery by force or with threat of force. Height is the measurement from the base to the top. Either is a choice between two options. Neither is when you don't want either option, either choice. Feisty means lively. A seismograph is an instrument that measures movement in the earth, and commonly these are earthquakes or earth tremors. Divide is when we break things or separate things into parts, usually equal parts. Provide is when we supply or give something to someone. A crocodile is a semi-aquatic reptile. And exercise is an activity requiring physical or mental effort. So you can finish that page by writing the words 3 times next to each one and checking as you go to make sure you spelt them correctly. So our words today are heist, height, either, neither, feisty and seismograph. So the EI is making the long I sound. And then we've got divide, provide, crocodile and exercise as a little bit harder words where the E is making the previous vowel make its long I sound. So you've got 2 different representations of the long I sound. Now there is a rule which is common in many words, and it's I before E except after C where the sound is E. So this one is reversed. You've got the EI making the long I sound. So just be aware of that. Now you've got some other things in here. Remember, this GH is a sound we can't make. It sounds like someone's going to vomit or spit on you. It's like a huck sound. We leave it out, but when we spell it we have to write those letters in. You know this TH for the th sound is coming through quite a bit, and you've got the on the end, ER, as the R-controlled vowel on the end of a word. Now you know a lot of words end with E. We use a Y for the E sound at the end of many words. The PH in seismograph makes the F sound, and I think, and you pretty well should know that we use a C for the k sound before an R and an O, so that should be fairly easy. Whereas when we have CI, we know it's going to make the C say S, and exercise, when we have SE on the end of a word, frequently it makes the sound Z. So just be aware of that. Now the crossword here, you've got your little clues going down over here and your clues going across here. Don't forget it's only 1 letter per box. You might need to work that through as a group, or you could see who's the first to finish it on their own. Now down the bottom we've got either and neither. So either is the positive when we use or, and neither usually means the negative of something. So you might need to discuss that within your group too to fill in those spaces correctly. Off you go. Our words today are heist, height, either, neither, feisty, seismograph, divide, provide, crocodile and exercise. So in the first one you have to use feisty as both a comparative where you're going to change the Y to an I and then add ER, and a superlative where you also change the Y to an I before you add EST, and then you have to write both feistier and feistiest in a sentence. Plural nouns here, you have to work out what the missing noun is and change it to its plural form, or it may remain in its singular form. Just be aware of that in this one. Here you're writing finding the incorrect verb in the sentence. It could be the correct base word but in the wrong tense, so you have to write it in its correct tense on the line at the end of each sentence. Down the bottom, we're learning how to change a verb into a noun, and then we want you to use it in a sentence. So take note of what we've asked you to do within these words. So you have to take off some letters and add others. So the suffixes that you're adding on are good to remember when you are asked to change a verb into a noun. Okay, today we're talking about shades of meaning. We're really looking at adjectives, and we're looking at the meaning that adjectives can add to a noun, and they can go from a very low meaning to a very intense meaning. So first of all, you have to match the adjectives that belong in the same group. So pretty would link to beautiful, so you can just go through those. They're nice and easy for you. Then down here we want you to write these three adjectives in order from the least to the most. So they're gathering in intensity as you write them. So the least to the most there. Then down here we've given you a couple to use in sentences. Here, find a stronger word for happy, a stronger word for achieve, stronger word for friend. So quite often when I read student stories, I find that they might use words like big, which are very simple words and okay when you're young, but as you get older you need to use more complex and more interesting words than those simple ones that you would have used when you first started writing. Here we want you to find a weaker word for ancient, genuine and hideous. Now down here we're forming adjectives when we make them say, how we make them say more or most. Now here you may add or est, more or most, but you would never use and more together. You wouldn't say that is more easier or that is the most ugliest toad I've seen. You would use one or the other. If you can use and est and it sounds right, then use that. If it doesn't, like you can't say that's important and that's the importantest thing, that sounds wrong and it is wrong. So for important, you would have to say more important and most important. So just be careful and think about it as you work through those, whether it sounds better with or more, est or most, and write them appropriately. So down here you have to use three adjectives to describe the same noun. So the nouns are 3 words to describe a building and 3 words to describe a car. You can write those 3 adjectives on those 3 lines.